Yo, what is up guys? In this video I'm going to share with you 5 common mistakes which people make every week which is stopping them from qualifying to the solo cash cup finals. I'm going to share you 5 mistakes made by you guys from the community and teach you what the correct plays are so you can use this to qualify for the solo cash cup finals this Friday. If you do enjoy today's video, please do drop a like and subscribe as I'm trying to hit 26,000 subscribers before the end of 2024. Let's get straight on into today's video. Okay, so starting off, the first thing I want to show you guys, now I'm aware this isn't a mistake, but for the first game, it's just how well Victor ends up rotating this prior to actually making his mistake. So Victor here is on the congested side of zone, as you guys were to see, and this is a perfect example of dead side within Fortnite. If I was to just draw a line all the way down here, there is not a single player to the entire left-hand side of this zone. So this is an example of dead side. Now, instead of Victor just rotating through all this congested area where all the players are right here, he does a lovely dead side rotation with the Oni mask to get towards the middle to dead side of zone. As you guys can see, he now being over towards the dead side, and if I put this into a 4x speed, you can see he rotates more towards the dead side, boxes up, and then looks to use the Oni mask again to get further towards zone. Now he's on this little bit of elevation here. He does make sure to pump the bush, although it is a little bit late, just to make sure to check it. And now look at this position which Victor has ended up putting himself in much more of a better position than if he was stuck on the congested side over here. And simply all Victor does is then just waits out in the bush before using his Oni mask again to teleport to the front side of zone once again and build a simple 1v1 and 1x1, sorry, using only about 100 mats total on this entire rotate to get perfectly into the nice side of zone. Okay, so I just want to point out here that Victor has no mats. Now, he actually does a really nice play to jump onto this opponent on low ground that's in wood, because these are most likely the players that are weak in this situation if Oza is actually not. He's full HP. But Victor takes advantage of this and picks up a nice elim on an unaware player. And what I like here is that he immediately pickaxes the wall and reboxes, creating himself a little bit more space before then immediately looking to rotate to the front side of zone, because you never want to be stuck on the back side of zone, especially not on low ground. He uses the Oni mask to teleport to the front side of zone where he stays on an elevated layer, and for this part of the next 40-30 seconds, he actually plays really quite safe, just hopping from box to box using the Oni mask and basic rotation in order to play very safe. But then we come to this situation about where the player here is on Victor's wall. Now in this scenario, if we have a look at this player, Victor right here is concealed behind a wall. So if Victor makes a simple window edit or a top right hand corner peanut butter edit just across here, he can get a very good angle onto this player without him seeing him. Instead, Victor makes a very wide open edit, leaving himself fully exposed to the opponent, which the opponent then takes advantage of and trades damage with Victor. Now, Victor maybe did this because he thought the opponent was low, but if he would have just done a simple edit like a window edit, he would have avoided taking damage back. But now Victor is just 18 HP. Now, I'll let you guys into a secret. He doesn't actually die from this engagement right here. But what it does do is it means because of that poor edit, 1, he doesn't get the refresh because he didn't pick up the kill, and 2, he gets hit hard. So now he's only 43 HP or 18 white health on the backside of zone with 0 mats. And it only takes a few seconds for a player to jump down from high ground above and just pick up a free hit onto Victor, who is exactly 1 HP, and that all come from a poor edit selection when picking up a refresh in endgame. Okay, so now moving on to our second game and second mistake, we're looking at a very good player here, which is Novi, but I think he messes up in this endgame. Now take note of the fact that there is 33 players up, and I've watched the minutes leading up to this, and for the whole time Novi has been on pretty limited mats. Notice how he only has 320 builds. Now in this scenario, I'd argue Novi, being the mechanical and confident fighter he is, should maybe jump in onto a player and look to get a refresh onto them, securing himself the mats he needs. But instead what he does is it appears to play very safe. Now whilst this isn't a bad thing, it seems like he plays solely to survive. Now like I've said again, that isn't actually a bad thing, but when his mats are running out as quick as they are right here and he's only got 20 builds, playing this defensive will mean that you're probably not going to get much deeper into the game. With 14 builds here, Novi should be looking to get a refresh, and to be honest, I don't actually know how he goes on to get a 9th in this game, because with 24 players left, he only has 5 builds, so he does really well to get to 9th anyway. But I feel like this whole time Novi should have already been looking for a refresh, because now he's in a situation where he's got barely any mats and there's limited stuff he can do. He doesn't react to take a shot at Xenox right here. He doesn't try jumping in on tours despite having no mats. He plays very, very safe and defensive. Now he does end up tanking some Storm here and playing some medkits, and I'll put it in 4x speed so you guys can see exactly what is going to happen. When we do have a look at Novi, he does of course have still 5 builds. He plays the medkits in Storm, but by this time he's got barely any mats, so it's limited how far he can get into this game. He teleports back to the front side of zone and uses everything he has now to sit on the back side of zone. Now Novi can't go and get a top 5 here pretty much unless he picks up a refresh, because he has no mats. Whereas if he got the refresh earlier in the game, he could be in a scenario now like these players where he's got mats and he is able to get deeper into the game. Now I want you guys to take a look at how Novi dies right here. He's hiding on low ground at the backside of zone, exactly where you expect players to be that are shambles, and Josh takes advantage of this and he comes back and he picks up that refresh onto Novi, like he has done a few times in this endgame already, and this secures Josh the mats which he needs to go on, and I believe it ends up getting him third in this game. So it just shows that if you're not willing to jump in onto someone and get those extra mats that you need, then what really is the point? Because if you play too safe, you're not actually going to get into the top 5 like Josh does right here, because yes, he took the risk going for the refreshes, but now he got all the mats he needed to secure the top 3 placement points, helping him to get deeper into this game and place higher in the tournament. So next, moving on to the third game, I want to look at Complex here, who is in a bit less of a stack lobby because I think it's important to cover both stacked and unstacked lobbies because you get both during the solo cash cup. Now Complex here has has over 900 mats, and he ends up getting even more, meaning he has over 100 builds. He also has the big pot and the medkits to get to full HP and a free refresh right in front of him. Like, this guy should be getting at least a top 5, possibly even pushing for top 3, considering he has this much mats and this much healing power towards this point of the game. But instead he ends up being the next player to die. So what does go wrong here and what mistake does he make? Well, immediately, I don't like where Complex is positioned in this zone. For me, he's on too low of a layer this whole time. If you look at other people that are on lower layers, like Voxhadge, for example, they probably have minimal mats. As you guys can see, Voxhadge has 0 mats, which is why he's on a low ground layer. But Complex having 100 builds being on this low of a layer is just not a good idea. And he gets a bit greedy and edits out onto this player here, which immediately he does pop a good shot onto him, but Complex hasn't even healed. He hasn't popped his big pot, he hasn't popped his medkit, and by the time he pushes this fight, he's only 20 HP, and Voxhadge ends up pushing him out of the lobby. Yes, this fight gets a bit scuffed, but Complex ends up getting griefed. I know replay lags right there, but Complex ends up getting griefed, sorry, on the backside of zone by players right here, and on the backside on the lowest layer possible as well. If Complex just elevates himself right here, either goes above Victory or near Run from Alon right now, he could have been in such a good scenario, and these guys probably don't have anywhere near as many mats as Complex did. He's only got 15 builds, he's only got 6 builds. Complex still had 100 mats at 100 builds, sorry, at this time in the game, which could have been great if he really wanted to push deeper, and he should really have got a top 5 or a top 3 in this game. Just a lesson about elevating yourselves onto a higher layer if you can, if you do have the materials to. So next up for our fourth mistake, we're going to be looking at a game here from Cheese to Drippy. Now Cheese comments on every video, so shout out to you if you are watching, thank you. And if you do want your games to be reviewed in the future, please do leave a comment on this video to let me know. Now in this situation, Cheese has 39 builds, and with only 11 players left, he should easily be able to get through the rest of the 10th zone, possibly even into the 11th, and get to a top 5 placement. However, he makes the decision to push high. Now I would argue this is a pretty poor decision at this stage in the game, and that is mainly because if you look at Flair here up on height, Flair is in full hard mats typing to one side of zone. Now when someone types to one side of zone, that indicates that they are a pretty good player and they also know what they're doing. Now Cheese portals all the way up to above Flair right here, and this is the issue with trying to take height this season, is Flair can immediately just look at the portal, he knows when Cheese is going to come, and he can get opening damage. Albeit it's only a 40 tag, but that psychologically already gives Flair the front foot here over Cheese that has decided to push high ground. Now from this situation, Cheese panics and tries to again teleport down to the zone, but he leaves his side open for Flair to get a massive tag onto him right here, and Cheese then proceeds to panic, and this is all because Flair's kept good pressure onto him and eventually picks up the kill. Now Cheese's mistake right here is when he teleports up onto height, he needs to make sure that Flair doesn't have vision onto him, and he's not the only one to make this mistake this game. As you can see, when Flair comes down, Leon then looks to teleport up to height, and again Flair has the easy opportunity to just track this teleportation because it's so easy with the Void Oni mask. You can see it being thrown on height, you can just track them, and he gets that opening damage onto Leon, which allows Leon to then panic. Obviously Flair does miss the shot here, which could have put Leon out of the game, but Flair manages to hold high ground, and Leon gets pretty griefed within this game. So it's just a little tip that when you guys are trying to take height, make sure the player on height cannot see you with your Void Oni mask, otherwise they will just laser you out the sky. So now moving on to our fifth game, and this is by a player called Breezy, who does have 100 earned, so congrats Breezy, that was from the Solo Victory Cup a few months ago. But I just want to firstly point out how he's always aware and looking for refreshes or eliminations. He hears this player get cracked above him and notices he's popping minis, so immediately looks to awareness check this player that isn't paying much attention, gets the wall and picks up an easy Elim right here. This is something you guys always want to be doing around sort of the 8th or 9th zone, because there's a lot of players that get beamed and then they're really weak and you can easily pick up free kills from them like Breezy does here, and then immediately looks to rotate to the front side of zone. But let's show you guys the mistake which stopped him from calling, because he ended up placing around top 3,000. So So I want to point out that I think Breezy actually has rotated through this endgames really well. I think he's prioritized just rotating to zone because he has the mats and he's not got overly greedy and look for kills like we've seen other players do in this video. So he actually plays this really well, and you can sort of see why he's got 100 earned. But here, as he TPs to the front side of zone, he gets tagged really hard, and as he heals up, he puts himself onto a nice higher layer here in a few seconds, as you guys will see, which is exactly what I'm on about, just elevating yourself up a little bit like he does. But coming up here, as we can see, he's in this metal box right now, and everything looks chilling. He doesn't look like he's going to die, but it's as he comes out of this box that I have the issue with him. As he comes out of the box to the right-hand side right here, he makes an open edit, and as he runs out, I'm going to hit the drone free camera right here so you guys can see what I'm on about. Now, look at Breezy right here, and look at the angles which he's covered. He hasn't covered his top, he hasn't covered his side, he also hasn't even covered to his right-hand side if there was a player here. But it means that this player can get a tag onto Breezy up here, this player can get a tag to Breezy, as well as Jacob, possibly Oliver can have a look at him if he was to come up there, or anyone behind us to our right-hand side down here. Now, from this, Breezy ends up getting tagged to 100 due to being greedy and not blocking his sides, and he has 700 mats, so this is just pure laziness. Now, Breezy here makes the same mistake again of forgetting to block his left-hand side, which actually ends up putting him down. I have accidentally switched off him, which actually ends up putting him down in this endgame because he forgets to block off his left-hand side again. He also doesn't block off his right-hand side, meaning if NX Zada wanted to, he could have a look and also hit Breezy here. Breezy should have just stopped, boxed fully in metal because he still has over 100 metal, like what he tries to do, but he should have stopped and done that on this tile right here instead of pushing his luck and trying to go one further. As you guys can see, the Arabic player times his shot through the wall. He's able to pick up that refresh onto Breezy, and at the time this guy only has 13 builds, and he's able to pick up that free refresh, and boom, now he's got 700 mats to go on and place deeper into this game with, like you guys can see. Now, Breezy went down just from forgetting to block his angles in endgame, which is an important lesson you guys can learn, and this was just outside the top 10, and with him placing top 3,000, if he would have placed in the top 5 of this game, he probably could have been very close to qualifying. So now you have learned all those mistakes, click this video on screen to make sure you fully qualify this Friday. Thank you guys for watching, subscribe for more.